Welcome to Common Sense, Ohio. It is the pre-Thanksgiving version. And, it's never too early to be thankful.
Gobble, gobble.
Gobble, gobble. To be thankful. Be thankful that for everything, even the littlest things.
That's right.
And then by the time we get to talk again, Thanksgiving will be done. But I think it's, the Thanksgiving season, it's been rough the last, let's call it 8 years.
It has been.
It's been rough to be around family.
Right.
Very difficult to be around family. So it's that take advantage of maybe things settling down a little bit, or, find some things to talk about that aren't politics. Let's get back together.
Yeah, even before Election Day, I remember J.D. Vance. He was talking about some very close friends that he had. That he said when he took the position to run for VP, that they said, just can't be friends with you anymore.
Man.
And he said, you know what, guys, even if you don't vote for me, I want my family and my friends to stay in my life.
Right.
And like this, the most important relationships we have isn't the person we vote for. I mean, it's our family and friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's bigger than anything.
It is. And hopefully we can start to mend those fences.
Yeah.
I hope so. Because I know, I don't know if the family that doesn't it's not affected by this.
Yeah.
I really, you hear these stories, and I think personally our families, we're talking just some things that they just lay the groundwork. We're not going to talk about this because they don't want to go.
Yeah.
They don't want it to turn bad.
Yeah.
And then you hear other stories that they are quote unquote out of the will. There's no conversation at all, and that's sad.
A lot of times family counselors say, when you feel like with your spouse or your kids or friends, when you feel that spiraling, like you're getting near the edge of the cliff and it's about to go over the cliff, back off.
Yeah, right. Why push it?
Right.
Why push it?
Right.
And allow the again, I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist or whatever, but it just seems to be common sense to allow the other person to speak because they're allowing you to speak.
Yeah,
and just let it be.
Deliberately allow them to have the last word. Like
sure.
Say to yourself, you know what?
Yeah.
I could come back endlessly with more evidence or more points or more data. At some point, just let them have the last word.
Right.
Honestly.
Right.
And if they want to, put the flag at the top of the hill, let them do that.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. You don't have to win every argument.
Right. It seems as though we go into conversations, and I think it's the receiving end as well, too, that you feel as if, okay, if we're getting into this conversation, that person is trying to change my mind.
Right.
Let's not get into those conversations to that point.
Yes.
Allow the conversation to happen.
Yes.
And we've allowed our conversations now here in the past, again, 4 to 8, 6 years, whatever, I'm going to change his mind. I'm going to change her mind.
Yeah.
She's going to see my way. He's going to see my way.
Right.
That's not a conversation.
Yeah.
That's a lecture.
Yeah, it's two people talking at each other and not listening to each other.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, give it a try.
Give it a try.
Make this holiday season a little different if you can.
Yeah.
If you can, and try to bring those people back into your lives because that's the only thing we got.
Yeah. I say I'm sorry. I must say it dozens of times a week to just, if something comes up, even if I don't really intellectually think it's my fault, I'm sorry is a little social lubrication to get past the sticking point with another person.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you just say, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't realize this meant that much to you. Let's do something else. Let's talk about something else. It doesn't hurt to say you're sorry. It costs nothing.
Right.
Set your ego aside and decide to just ask for, peace and forgiveness. And you'd be surprised sometimes if you get off your high horse, at least for me, if you get off your high horse and decide, you know what, this isn't worth it. Something's spinning out of control here. So I like that, Brett. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway,
for that. Good thought.
Thought we'd try it off that way, but let's get into the show. You are making up for Steve not being here. Obviously, you can see Steve's not here.
Nobody can make
it's
up
a holiday
for that.
season. We're going to be in and out of the holiday season for the next 6 weeks.
Right.
The schedules are strange, but we'll see him back here soon for sure. So,
I hope he's making cookies or something.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So
yeah.
good for Steve.
Yeah.
We all need a day off for work reasons or to play. On this date, November the 22nd, back in 1963. John F. Kennedy was assassinated, and the Warren Commission determined it was not a conspiracy. It was a result of a lone gunman, Lee Harvey Oswald. And there has been debate ever since about, was there a conspiracy? Was there a second person on the grassy knoll? And, was Lee Harvey Oswald just the useful idiot? And, of course, and then Lee Harvey Oswald himself, a few weeks later, or just days later, was himself assassinated by Jack Ruby in the garage of the police station in Dallas. So a rather epic event, John F. Kennedy being the young World War II hero, handsome, first Catholic president, his brother Bobby, his attorney general, and of course his wife, where he would often say, "I'm the man, I'm the man who's known as who accompanied Jackie Kennedy," right? Because she was a super admired person as First Lady, and
talk about a storied family.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! I
Oh
mean,
my
you get
goodness.
Kennedy on your name, and it just
Yeah.
to this day.
To this day, and so Mr. Trump has
Oh my
a
gosh.
Kennedy in his cabinet.
Yeah.
As if he gets approved to be head of Health and Human Services, which is kind of how it used to be in the old days. A lot of times, presidents would pick people from across party lines, and famously, there's that book. I think it's called A Cabinet of Adversaries or something like that, about the Lincoln cabinet, where his whole cabinet was basically adversaries of his policies, and he deliberately chose people who would challenge him and force a very strong discussion about various issues in his administration. So it does have a long tradition, and he picked Tulsi Gabbard and some other people who are not necessarily Trumpers, in like long-term MAGA people. They're rather new affiliates of his. So yeah, picking a Kennedy adds definitely some star power to the current cabinet.
Yeah.
Or the would-be cabinet.
Right, it would be exactly.
What I came up with, Brett, and I hope you have some topics that are important to you. I saw this and I considered this maybe the hottest story, even though it's a sports story, and it's about this $10.5 million NIL, name, image, likeness deal that the Michigan Wolverines just did with apparently the number one high school player in the country up in Michigan, in Belleville, Michigan. He's a high school quarterback, Bryce Underwood. And he hasn't even finished his high school football season. But he is signed. He was going to sign with LSU, and they offered him $1.5 million. And Michigan's came back and said, we'll give you $10.5 million. And the way this NIL thing seems to work, I'm not the biggest football expert, certainly college football, but apparently these licensing arrangements can be done outside the university by what they call collectives. And the collectives raise the money. They go to, car dealers and say, hey, this kid will advertise for you. They go to Nike, this kid will do a shoe deal, et cetera. And they basically amalgamate this money and then offer it to the university. And I guess there's some, NC2A rules, things like, okay, once you do that, that kid, like, he gets the money, but he doesn't even have to finish like his 4 years on your football team. If he gets hurt, whatever, that money is his. And I heard that, I don't know what NFL players get, but I heard that $10.5 million is more than a hell of a lot of NFL players, what they get.
Yeah.
This guy is 19 years old, and he's still in high school, and he's getting $10.5 million.
You're almost dealing with a LeBron James of football here, aren't we?
Yeah.
Like he's going to skip college, and which he's not, of course. That's the deal. But it's like, you're going to go pro right now?
Well, like college is like a farm pro.
Yeah, it is, though.
I mean, this idea of allowing it, and who can raise that? I mean, just look at LSU, obviously big program, right? But Michigan's much bigger. And the idea that a kid would choose college on the basis of who's going to pay him more money.
I know.
I mean,
therefore, the college education is nothing.
It really taints the whole thing.
Big time, even though it probably has been that way anyway to a certain degree. But I think a lot of football players take advantage of the education. They know that, more than likely the percentages are still low. They're going to play pro ball. So they've got to come out with at least an education or the reputation of the school to help them with their career.
Yeah, right.
I mean, look at Ohio State University. Any football player that goes through this program that did a good job while they were here has a great reputation in Ohio, in Central Ohio, that they can pretty much not do what they want to do, but they have a step up.
Yeah,
like to be in business.
Eddie Jordan's a great example.
Yeah.
Urban Meyer.
All right.
I mean, they have eateries and and they have that star power.
Yeah, I guess, and and to your point too of understanding the NIL, I don't know if there is a process. So okay, let's say this kid from Michigan gets the 10.1 mil. Are there safety measures in play that the kid actually doesn't blow the money or has some type of financial planner around it?
Right.
That he's set.
Yeah.
He's to your point, he gets injured or he quits, whatever. It's money's his. So he is set for his life if he uses the money properly.
I'm sure this kid also, right? This is all happening, for him to go play college. Wow. And then, possibly he goes on and does an NFL career. But think of this. He's 19 years old. He has a sports agent. At 19, for the purpose of choosing a college.
Yeah.
So
he's not a minor.
Yeah.
He's an adult at 19.
So
the parents really don't get a piece at it unless, paperwork, this, that, and the other are put in play.
He listens to smart people.
Yeah, I hope so. Because you hate to hear that.
Right. And you
hear the stories that they don't. Everybody gloms on him, and the money's gone.
Here in Columbus, we had a star running back. Was it Maurice?
Oh, Claret,
yeah. Right? Didn't he rob a bank? Like it gets that bad.
Yeah.
It can get that bad where Art Schleicher, went to prison over gambling debts and doing illegal things in order to raise money to pay off. Yeah, I assume the mob or somebody.
I think people that were anti-NIL, I think this is the end game they were dreaming it's going to happen.
Yeah,
that it's just a recruiting scheme now. And I don't think NIL was supposed to be designed that way. No. It was to at least level the playing field for these kids. That rather than the schools getting all the money, the kids can at least get some payment.
Right.
And with football as well, and I think there's a piece of it that football has that detriment that you're wearing a helmet, so you never get to really see who that player is versus basketball, baseball, all the other non-helmeted sports.
Good point.
And I think they really wanted to help football, especially because the football programs are usually the one that is the cash cow.
Yeah.
Usually.
It's raising money for the rest of the Department of Athletics.
And Title IX stuff, all that, that again.
It gets financed by football.
Perfectly fine. It is what it is.
Yep.
But I think it was a piece of that too. But this is putting gas on the fire.
I mean,
this is not. That's nuts.
$10.5 million.
That's nuts.
That's nuts.
And think about what it does to a 19-year-old male's head.
Oh, sure.
Right. I mean, this kid's Superman now.
Oh, yeah.
I'm worth 10 mil coming.
If you were counsel,
I'm flabbergasted.
So
that's amazing.
He's got his state championship yet to play. The season isn't over yet for his high school. I'm thinking if I'm his advisor,
you're not playing.
You're not like
exactly.
Quit the team,
right?
Like quit the high school football team. You're not even.
Your name will be mud, but
I mean, if you get hurt.
Exactly. You better make sure that ink's dry on that contract. It may be part of the contract that you don't play that state final game. I wonder.
I do too.
Wow. Wow.
I know. And obviously just to repeat, the real worrisome part is, like great NFL quarterbacks, many of the greatest of all time, came from obscure programs.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Or programs that weren't even, like commercially, like involved. Like Roger Staubach came from the U.S. Naval Academy.
Yeah.
That's the college team he played for. Yeah. Or Big Ben over at the Steelers. Like he played for Miami.
Exactly.
And Ken Anderson, Hall of Fame quarterback for the Bengals. He played for some obscure. I don't even know how Paul Brown found Ken Anderson. like he played for a nowhere school, and yet he was one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. So you just wonder how the small colleges and universities where there isn't a big alumni group to form this collective that then does all this fundraising and hands it off to the university to recruit with it. You just, like small programs are not going to have that.
Yeah. Well, and if you, again, I don't know how much that program has at Michigan for NIL, but you would think at 10.5, that pretty much has to be a lot of the budget. So there are no other players that can compensate.
I wonder. I mean, other than Ohio State, that might be the, the most,
I don't know.
Funded. So what I understand is, speaking of Ohio State, they have two of these collectives that are feeding money to the Ohio State NIL recruitment process.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Yeah, they need to put some guardrails on that one. I mean, I don't know what the proper. I mean, what's the limit? I don't know. 1 million, 3 million.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Right.
But 10 compare. Well, let's put it at least in the competitive process. 10-1.
Yeah. That LSU was 1.5, and Michigan went all the way to 10.
It's like, okay, let's just show the whole hand here.
Yeah.
Wow. Anyways, yeah. So, yeah, I wonder if that's going to change some stuff. Yeah.
I want to also. I made an error on last week's show, and I just want to correct the record. I said that Lee Zeldin, the fellow, ran against Kathy Hochul for governor in New York, and he narrowly didn't win. She won that election, but he has some star power because he did so well as a Republican in New York. I said that he was the delegate to the UN. No, Trump has picked him as the head of the EPA.
Oh, okay.
And for the UN representative, another politician from New York, Elise Stefanik, who during the Trump impeachment and things like that, she was a stalwart examiner of the witnesses and very active in defending Trump, and has ended up becoming one of the top House of Representative people under Mike Johnson. She's going to leave the House and become the representative to the UN. So I just wanted to clear that up. I misspoke. Speaking of politics, there's this big scramble. I'm sure you've been following this too, to fill J.D. Vance's seat.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. See what's going on here. Yeah.
I mean, there are some people, interestingly enough, who have taken their names out. So, like Dave Yost put out a little video. He teasing that he's going to run for governor.
Right.
And he has said he doesn't want this appointment if Governor DeWine asks him. He doesn't want it. So Dave Yost, our our Attorney General, rather, of Ohio, is saying, no, I'm going to run for governor. So some of the names being batted around, Matt Dolan, who lost to Bernie Moreno in the primary for Senate. This would be a way for him to get to the Senate.
Yeah.
For this vacated seat. Frank LaRose, our Secretary of State, who also lost to Bernie Moreno in that primary.
And LaRose is kicking around the idea for governor too, right?
Oh, I think he is,
Yeah,
as well as the current Lieutenant Governor, John Husted, has said that he is intending to run for governor. Yeah. I think one of the dark horse candidates out there is Representative Mike Carey, who has been a MAGA Republican state representative for several years now, and he would be a pick that Trump and Vance would be delighted with. I think possibly, though, DeWine, if he stays true to his philosophies and his kind of middle of the road republicanism, his pick, I think, the one I think he would like to do and may do is Jane Timken, who is one of the top Ohio GOP officials. So we'll see, but the knives are out.
Yeah.
And Governor DeWine's spokesman has said that the phone hasn't stopped ringing.
I bet.
At one point, he said he would like to make his choice by January 3rd, when the new Senate, would come into session and start working on these nominations. But J.D. Vance, in theory, could stay on the job because his term, continues. He has not resigned yet. He could stay on the job and help vote in, or at least vet some of these cabinet appointments. And I guess he doesn't have to resign until January 20th, technically.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
There are a lot of games to be played here.
I wonder if a dark horse could be that he puts Sherrod Brown in there. Oh my God! Talk about a national spotlight.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
That would be insane, man.
It's funny you bring up DeWine. I ran into him yesterday. Actually, he was walking out as I was walking in, getting a haircut.
No way.
Yeah, and I thought something was odd because I walk into the I don't want to call it a barber shop, but salon, whatever. I don't know what you call those places anyway.
Yeah.
And there's this short little guy standing outside in a suit.
Right.
Okay, whatever.
Like,
I sit down, all of a sudden I see him waddle out. I was like, oh, protective service. But I'm thinking, but then I walk out, he's still out there when I walk out 15, 20 minutes later after getting, not much hair to cut. And it's this big black Suburban.
Wow.
I'm thinking, my God, you're not a great example of this new EV battery thing.
Yeah, right.
So he must have been doing some calls in the back, but they're just, the bodyguards are yakking outside and stuff like that. But
he was probably taking calls from J.D. Vance.
Well, when you said the call stuff, he's probably taking a break, getting his hair cut. Oh. He's got to go back in the car and take calls.
Oh, it must be off the hook right now.
Oh, it's got to be. Yeah, it's got to be. Yeah. I mean, and that's I wonder, is it that hard of a decision, or is it just make up your mind? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it plays out as it plays out.
It's a 1-year appointment.
Yeah,
basically,
right.
The person, maybe
there's a year and a half. Yeah, something like that.
Something like
that.
Yeah. So this person will have to stand for won't be a re-election, but will have to stand for election.
Yeah.
In 2026.
So it's really looking at that future of that next term. Who being in office, does that give you enough time to be reelected, or it's just you're kind of a placeholder waiting for the next person?
DeWine is
I don't know.
And DeWine has said he is not interested in appointing like a placeholder. Like a Rob Portman.
Exactly.
Bring him back and say, Rob, this is just a deal for a couple years or a year and a half, whatever. And then, but no,
that person has a legitimate potential to be again reelected in. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that's the smart way of doing it. Otherwise, you're looking like, okay, that position holds no power.
Right. And then Sherrod Brown, position. He would run. He would run against that person probably.
Right. If you played that scenario.
Yeah. If you pick a weaker person.
Yeah. If he is, I don't know. Maybe Sherrod's done. I don't know. He's made a comment. I've not heard him saying I'm done.
I would think he's the leading candidate for that slot. But he's got a year or so to think about it.
Right. Yeah. Because I don't even know how old he is. I need to Google that up. Is Sherrod Brown?
Yeah,
72.
Yeah,
he's not that old. Comparatively,
exactly.
And he's got the experience and such too. So anyway, yeah, okay.
Couple Ohio stories here. There was a terrible bus, truck, and automobile, kind of like a collision on I-70 a year ago, where there was a school field trip. I think it was a band. And it was a field trip, and there were parents. The kids are on the bus. The parents have to be in not on the bus. Only people, who work for the school or who have been fingerprinted and been through all the vetting can be on the bus. So some of the parents were following the bus, and a truck just rammed into this stopped traffic on the highway. Didn't slow down, just went right in. And accordioned, bus caught fire, all this terrible stuff. 6 people killed, and they're now going to, start the trial. The truck driver is said to have had on his phone. The state patrol came out and said that he was streaming video.
Oh, geez.
So that kind of makes you think that's the theory of the cause of the accident. Is he was not paying attention, watching a movie or the news or whatever he's watching, right, on his phone or tablet or whatever he had in the truck. And, we had somebody in here, a guest of ours, talking about distracted driving. And, this guy's probably going to go to prison. And 6 people are dead. So, wow. That story came up this week. And then also, we talked last week about a high school principal that kind of got over the tips of her skis and put out a memo to the school about her upset with the election. And I think they probably did the right thing by giving her a second chance. She got her job back. And, I'm not one of those harsh people that thinks, things like that are unforgivable. I think, she clearly made a mistake letting her personal politics infect her job on the, at the school. Yeah. And I think she was censured and probably, the school board, gave her a stiff, message that no more of this. So I'm good with this. I think it's a good outcome. I don't think people should lose their jobs. Yeah. Strike one, you're out, unless it's a super, something that involves the safety or health of the students.
Yeah. My wife teaches future teachers at Wright State University, is on my ball cap. And she has one student that has started at that school system, and she said the principal's just fantastic, very welcoming. So I think it's just an error in judgment.
Yeah.
I think even I've, from those that I've heard talk about that scenario, they go, shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, shouldn't have done that.
On both sides.
I don't think you get the death penalty for that.
No, and I'm glad she didn't lose her job over, because we can't afford to lose good people.
Yeah.
In any career path, in any system, because if she's good at what she does, we need her there.
Yeah. Just fix the problem. Yeah. And let her continue to teach kids and lead kids, and I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I think that's a happy outcome, and I'm sure she learned a lesson. She apologized, and hey, we move on.
Yeah.
God bless
her. So,
exactly.
Yeah, well, as you know, too, I think we didn't talk about this last week, but at least Ohio-centric, and most states the same way, that, as the before the end of the year, there's a ton of bills in Ohio legislation.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at, and they're going to be in Ohio Senate is in session, well, beginning this week.
Yeah, lame duck session is sometimes some tricky stuff happens.
Through the middle of December. The Ohio House is here through mid-December. They can be a little bit later than that there too, but some bills to keep your eye on. There's a bathroom bill coming out, House Bill 183, labeled the bathroom bill. That would ban, the ban would require Ohio K through 12 schools and colleges to mandate students can only use the bathroom or locked room that aligns with their gender assigned at birth. Senate Bill 83, higher education bill, is going through there too. Trying to remember what's going on with that one, but again, you can do research on it. But I think there's a lot of stuff to take a look at. The religious
that might be a DEI bill.
I think it is exactly. Yeah. It is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, defines it has a it's about retrenchment, which I think has been changed a little bit in regards to tenure, which is I think Huffman that no Seitz put that together. I guess it was. I don't know his discussions around this, that he's changed things, and I don't know what else I'm going to add, but it's going to come back because apparently it's been put on hold.
Yeah, and
it's like, so is this just your baby to mold the way you want? It's different for sure, but it's got some but it's mostly to define controversial beliefs or policies. What is it called? Any belief or policy that is the subject of a political controversy, including issues such as climate policies, electoral politics, foreign policy, diversity, equity, and inclusion, immigration, marriage, or abortion. So, hopefully, it's going to be put on hold. That one I know has been put on hold.
Yeah.
Religious time, requiring districts to make a policy to let students be excused from school to go to release time, religious instruction. It's House Bill 445. I'm not a big fan of that, quite frankly.
So on that real quick, they did pass a law, and it was signed by the governor, that each school district had to create a policy. Didn't tell them what the policy had to be,
right?
But they had to have a policy about off-campus religious education, pro, con, whatever, how it would work, who, et cetera. Yeah. And so some of the school districts did, in fact, create policies. And some of them said no. Some of them said, and that's their policy. Yeah. So they clearly, the advocates of religious education off campus were not happy with that. So to your point, they've gone back to the legislature and said, well, now we want you to compel them to allow this. Yeah. So here we go.
So if to me, I would suggest if you get kids in school, think about this, and if you're not on board, be making your voice known. Well, if you don't want your school disrupted, or if you think it's a great idea, one way or the other, because it's interesting.
So I think it's a good idea with certain provisos, right? So it already has to be paid for privately, and the transportation has to be private, and it has to be off campus. But to Brett's point, I can see where some school districts, particularly those that are not well funded or that are small, and it would be a great disruption for maybe half or 3/4 of the student body to leave campus, right, and then come back 2 hours later.
Right.
Like a big school district like, I don't know, Dublin or Olentangy or something, maybe they could handle the dynamics of that. But, that could really play hell with a very small school district.
Right, and you're already dealing with schools that they're not being graded very well. Let's put it that way. So you got that disruption. I guess in my mind, I'm thinking if you want to be released to go to a religious education class during the middle of school, then take your kid out of school and enroll him or her in a religious school.
Because now
go do it.
We have
take them out.
We have Ed Choice.
Exactly.
We have Ed Choice where you get
go do it.
I think it's $8,000, something like that, for a primary school student,
right?
And you can use that to enroll in, as Brett said,
right?
in a charter school or a religious school or what.
Take them out. Take them out and go do it. If if that's what you want their kid to go through, go do it.
That is a solution.
Yeah. Quit this breaking up. It just, to me, it looks like, and it's going to be backed, again, in my opinion, backed by people that really want to break the education system up. And they're seeing this as another way to get in there, disrupt the school day, and the schools just do worse and worse and worse because of this disruption. Give the teachers a chance to teach the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you want your kids not to, as a religious education, go to a charter school then. Just pull them out. Go. Just go.
So, as silly as it seems, to compel school districts to create a policy on this subject is one thing. To force them, to do this, where, we have something around 800 different school districts of different types in Ohio. There's county boards of MRDD, and they have their program. They have their schools. There's all different kinds of high schools. There's VOCED, high school. There's all kinds of different, grade schools and all this stuff. And they're not all the same. They're not. Some of them aren't even unionized. Like there's like these school districts. If you compare, say, Columbus or Worthington or Olentangy, and then you look at some of the smaller ones like Johnstown or Utica or something, they're qualitatively and quantitatively much different.
Right.
And so one solution often doesn't fit all.
Correct.
And I would like to see the flexibility maintained.
Just as that they did right there. Create policy on what your school district can do.
And the parents can go advocate at the school board
at that level,
one way or the other.
Right. And I think that's a fair
solution.
I think it is too. Right. Exactly. A few other House Bill 503. I don't know if you've heard about this one. A bill would declare open season on feral pigs, prohibiting feeding garbage to pigs and ban bringing any hogs into Ohio that have been fed garbage.
So I hear.
I did not know this. Yeah.
So I hear, like in Arizona, they have these wild pigs called javelinas. Okay. And in Texas and Georgia, they have some really big ones, like they're boars, like really large feral pigs or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
I have to say, like, I've lived in rural Ohio for, I don't know, half my life. I have never seen a wild pig. They must exist. But I've never seen one.
Yeah, so they're saying Representatives Bob Peterson from Sabina and Don Jones Freeport introduced the bill in April of this year. It says Ohio's feral swine could cost the state millions in damages to crops, natural vegetation, water, and soil. I'm assuming this must be a Southeast Ohio problem. I don't know where. It does not say where, so I don't know. I'm not sure. I should have looked up where Sabina and Freeport is. It must be. I don't know. But I just thought, really? Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know we had a problem with that. But just
I don't think there's a season on coyotes either. I think those are year round. They're considered, a vandal kind of animal.
Right. Just a couple more. House Bill 8 is a parents' bill of rights. It's a bill that would force educators to out a student's sexuality to their parents. And hemp bills coming through. Senate Bill 278 and Senate Bill 326 related to hemp products, so control of that, basically. So some major, some minor stuff, you know, that sort of thing. So it's just it's always interesting to see what kind of slides through and is on the table and is either going to be pushed to the next year or does get through. But I thought the feral pigs, if nothing else, slide it in the middle there. I thought that was interesting.
That's unbelievable. I'm going to talk to some. I'm not a hunter. I'm going to talk to some hunter friends of mine. See if they've ever. I've never seen it.
I don't know.
But
I can't imagine they taste good.
They can't. No.
Maybe just baking them out. I don't know. Ugh.
God.
We need to go to a national scene, don't we?
Yeah. So one of the things that happened this week that I can't wrap my head around, I truly am somewhat afraid of this, is apparently not apparently, I mean, they've said on the record, but the Biden administration gave Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, the authority to use U.S. ballistic missiles and fire them into Russia. So we have U.S.-made missiles, hitting targets in Russia. And Vladimir Putin has said that is a line that we cannot cross, but we have crossed it.
Yeah.
And he has said a few things in response. Besides sending his own hypersonic missile that hit Ukraine last night, 2 nights ago, he did a little demonstration of what Russia's power is to respond in kind. So a few observations. Putin has said that this means Russia, these are his words, is at war with NATO, which is not a good thing. It's not a good thing. And Sweden, for example, member of NATO, has passed out civil defense pamphlets to its population about what to do in response, or if there is some violence or some sort of military action taken against Sweden for being part of NATO. And so there's this duck and cover, fear mentality now that's spreading across Europe. And so Ukraine has sent troops into Kursk, which is a state within Russia. It's called the Kursk Oblast. An oblast is, the English word would be state. So it would be like Canada sending troops into Ohio, right? So Zelensky has troops in Russia. He's now fired U.S.-made ballistic missiles into Russia, and Putin has said they are lowering their threshold point for the use of nuclear weapons. So anybody who's seen the movie The Day After or read about Hiroshima or whatever, that's not good stuff. This is not good stuff. And I can't get around why Biden would do this with a new president coming in. Biden's only around for another 60 days as president. And this is now expanding the war now they're, instead of firing artillery and instead of running tanks and troops into each other's territories, now Russia and Ukraine are exchanging ballistic missiles. And what if one of those goes off track and lands in Poland or something? And then Poland responds to Russia. And then here we go. We're off and running because Poland's a member of NATO. And we have an obligation, if a member of NATO is attacked, then we, the United States, are treaty bound to attack as if they attacked the United States. Russia also apparently has had China cut these undersea internet cables. So there's this. The Danish Navy has impounded a Chinese ship that satellite photography caught it sailing over these cables at the exact same time that the cables were cut in 2 different places in the Baltics. And there's speculation that Putin had China do this for him. So, Brett, we're going off the rails here.
I know.
This is super scary
Why
stuff.
are we escalating versus de-escalating?
We should be telling Zelensky, no, you can't use those missiles unless they use missiles first.
Correct.
Or something like that. This is like the Middle East right now, where now, you've got states, Israel and Iran, firing missiles at each other. When it was but when it was Israel going to go after Hamas in Gaza, now we have Iran and Israel exchanging missiles. That's not good.
Yeah.
And that war is definitely widening. And then here with Russia and Ukraine, when the word nuclear comes out of Vladimir Putin's mouth, that got my attention.
Right, exactly. And for whatever mess Biden has now opened the opportunity for. I'm hopeful that Trump will come in during his first few days, month, and all it is just international focus. I know we've got problems here, but we got to figure this out over there. And we need to be in the midst of that, figuring out, we got to get this de-escalated at least to the point of at least nuclear is not being talked about. And let's end this crap, whatever we need to do.
I mean,
to aggressively talk versus just sitting by or giving them arms that we're basically a part of this, which we were anyway. But now we've got, emblazoned artillery going over.
Yeah.
And we're not controlling. And that we're not firing. And we're just giving somebody to do it. Yeah.
And it's not just Russian troops that these missiles from Ukraine are aimed at. They're aimed at North Korea has gotten involved. So you talk about a World War III kind of scenario. Kim Jong-il has sent, I think it is, or committed to send at least 100,000 North Korean combat troops, and I think somewhere around 10,000 are currently in combat side by side with Russian troops in Kursk, trying to throw back the Ukrainians and throw them back across the border. So if Ukraine's sending missiles that end up killing North Koreans at a military base somewhere in Russia, you've not only taken on Russia now, you've taken on North Korea. And then what's Kim Il, what's he going to do in response to that? Because he wants to have a nuclear program. And apparently part of the deal for him to supply troops for Putin is nuclear technology so he can have a nuclear tipped ballistic missile that can reach the United States. And this is how all of these interconnections and entangling alliances could possibly escalate us into a real nuclear war of some kind. Even if it's tactical, if not strategic, it still means in Europe there'll be, all this radioactive fallout, and it'll be way worse than Chernobyl. It'll be, at least Hiroshima kinds of long-term illnesses and cancers, and obviously people killed in the initial strike. We just, like you say, Brett, this has got to be job one for the president.
It has to be. You've got countries that are salivating to go up against us.
Yeah.
And if you look at the history of how we get into wars, how wars start, it is kind of by accident.
Yeah.
Something happened the wrong way.
Right.
And boom, everybody's involved. Somebody pissed somebody else off.
Yeah.
It wasn't an intentional boom. Okay, we don't like you. We're going to declare war on you. This over here happened.
Yeah,
like you said,
Archduke Ferdinand gets assassinated.
Exactly.
And then World War I happens because, Serbia has an alliance with, somebody. And then so Serbia declares war on another country that it thinks supplied the assassin. And, and then all these countries start falling into line. And before you know it, British boys are fighting German boys that had nothing to do with this assassination, and they're wondering, why are we fighting each other, right? And it goes on for 4 years, and a whole generation is lost.
Yes, yeah.
So the only glimmer of hope that I have heard is that Putin also said this week that he thinks Trump that he offers the best chance to resolve something at a peace treaty table, and Zelensky has made mumblings of the same. So maybe what's going on here, this is the rosiest picture I can put on this, is that they're jockeying for position so that in 2 months at the negotiating table, the reality on the ground will be different than it is today. Yeah. And one side or the other will have a stronger, point of view if they say, okay, draw the line here where the troops currently are, some crazy thing.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Scary.
And that's why this Thanksgiving is so important. let's
right. So yeah, thank God that it's not here.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So
some other crazy stuff. Yeah. Our next door neighbors in Pennsylvania have had just the craziest roller coaster ride. And I heard today that Senator Bob Casey has conceded the race to his Republican opponent in that Senate race over in Pennsylvania. But in the meantime, when they were counting votes, and on camera, I mean, it just confirmed all of these notions of stolen, shenanigans or stolen votes or whatever you want to call it, of election interference, when a member of the Bucks County Commissioners, which is a heavy tourist area of Pennsylvania, that they have some wonderful things in Bucks County, but one of the three commissioners on camera said this week that Supreme Court decisions and Supreme Court precedent don't mean anything, and so therefore she intended to go ahead and count undated and unsigned ballots. And this is despite the Democrat-controlled Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, which two Republican, 5 Democrat. The Supreme Court of Pennsylvania told this Bucks County commissioner, who is a Democrat, ma'am, no, you can't do that. The Constitution in Pennsylvania says the ballots have to be signed and they have to be dated. And so if they're not signed and they're not dated, we can't determine the validity of this ballot, so it can't be counted. And she said, right on camera, she said, I am going to violate the Supreme Court's decision because nobody obeys their decisions, and I'm not going to either. So then they issued a second opinion and directed it right at her and said this week that you're wrong, you're violating the law, you can't do this. And she finally apologized and acceded to that. But this is not helpful. When local politicians do these things that are so partisan and they're so in your face that they're going to do something like this, it makes the conspiracy theory people say, oh, well, there you go. See, that's how they screwed Trump back in 2020. And they fill up that space in the social media with so this is being used by people who people who say that there was not a Biden victory. They're saying, well, see, this is the kind of stuff that they do.
Well, what kind of example is it? That's just mind blowing.
It's mind-blowing.
But I know it exists in every state. You hear a Supreme Court ruling that this is not valid. This is not whatever. And they just go,
right.
Their nose up to them. Right. I mean, we have and again, without going into detail, we had the same thing here in Ohio when we had the gerrymandering that, the Supreme Court said, no. They come back. It's like, well, screw you. We're going to do it the way we want to.
Well,
there are a lot of examples.
Well, what they did is
it just gives a poor example of how things are supposed to run.
Yeah.
If you agree with it or not, it doesn't matter. This is the way it's set up.
Yeah.
That, let's going back to the issue one, the gerrymandering situation. It is set up that if I'm paraphrasing it correctly, that this group of politicians decide the lines, and if it's not correct, Supreme Court does have the final say.
That's right.
But 7 times?
That's crazy.
And it's like infectious across states.
But here's the thing: a current Ohio law allows the minority party, which is currently the Democrat Party, they have veto power over the map. So it doesn't go to the Supreme Court unless they sign off on it. So 7 times, even the Democrats said, hey, this is as good as a map as we can come up with, and we're okay with it. Mm-hmm. Because obviously what negotiates, Brett, at these with the boundary commission, they negotiate this stuff. And so they the Democrats say, well, we have certain seats that we insist be safe seats. And so you draw the line so we can retain those. And the Republicans go, okay, but in exchange, we want to protect these seats. And so both parties are taking care of, because the Republicans cannot advance the boundaries, the gerrymandering, unless the Democrats also agree to it. And it's an ugly, it's like watching sausage being made.
Right.
But it is political compromise.
Yeah, right. And I guess I bring the example in. I'm not trying to put the Supreme Court on a pedestal that they're untouchable, but it's that there are things in play that make some common sense that if it's not signed and dated, that's
a rule.
That's a rule.
Yeah, if you want to change your rule, but
not right there on the spot.
Not just because you want to give Bob Casey more votes.
Right. No. I mean, and I get the emotion and the anxiety driven such like that, but it's like, folks.
Yeah,
there is a right way and a wrong way. Would you want the other party doing this as well?
Well, so she
on.
In her statement, she said that what ticked her off and what got her so mad was the U.S. Supreme Court's decision on Dobbs to return to the states the abortion issue. So she did not like that, and so her point was that the current Supreme Court didn't follow what Roe v. Wade's Supreme Court said. Well, Supreme Courts don't have to follow precedent. That's where they make precedent. So Supreme Courts can overrule, just like, they overruled, Brown versus Board, overruled prior Supreme Court decisions that said you could racially segregate schools. Brown v. Board came along and overruled that. Well, that is called progress. That's the Supreme Court, looking at an issue decades later and changing the law. Yeah. And that's how our system worked. Yeah. She didn't like that. And so she said, well, if they're not going to follow that precedent, I'm not going to follow this precedent. And what that leads to is tragedies like when Andrew Jackson, as president, told the U.S. Supreme Court that he told them to go to hell, that he was going to go ahead and send the Cherokee Nation to Oklahoma, all right, and remove them. And you had the Trail of Tears. Many people died along the way. Yeah. Oklahoma is not the environment that the Cherokee were used to in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. And Andrew Jackson said, well, let the Supreme Court's army force me to comply with its decision. Well, what a shitty thing. Yeah. You're supposed to, in our society, you're supposed to go along civilly, as Brett just said, with decisions you may not like. But if the Supreme Court rules that way, you have to give it reverence. You have to give it the respect. That's how our system should work. And if you don't like it, go back and fight for go in court and fight for your position. But, it can lead to, in that case, a genocide against the Cherokee Indians. Yeah. So,
and that we're still paying for today.
Yeah.
In regards to just a cultural clash.
Yeah.
Exactly. Wow. Yeah. We're winding down here. I did want to ask you one thing though. So I saw this. In the Robb report. It's the
the Robb report.
Yeah, it lists
that's like for millionaires and billionaires.
It lists the greatest sports cars of all time, and I wanted to kind of get. It's a top 40, but I've got the top 10. I just wanted to kind of throw at you what you thought maybe your top two picks. Now they based it on. Defining a sports car, a low two-seater.
Well, I have one.
Yeah,
I have one.
Let's see what notable judging criteria: performance innovations, mass influence, and sales success. And I think calls called Widowmaker. Just that kind of thing. Mass influence and in sales success, and rarity sometimes weighed less than cultural or design influence. Okay, so they have their parameters, of course.
Right.
So okay, I've got their list. I wanted to throw it at you. It's like, well, what do you think
This is
the best, because your racing background. I thought, this is a Norm thing. I want to throw this at you and see what you think.
This is a hot area for car collectors and car people. I mean, this
is what you bring up at Thanksgiving. What do you think is the best sports car?
Right.
This gets you away from the politics.
Right. This is a good topic.
Yeah.
Or, favorite Christmas movie, that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. What do you think?
So for me, my all-time favorite car is the 1962 Ferrari 330 GTO.
Okay.
Number one. That is the most. So if you Google that 1962 Ferrari GTO, that is the most beautiful looking and one of the. I mean, still to this day, very high performance oriented car. And I would guess my second most favorite. Now street version of these cars. So they race those also. Right. But there's also street versions of a lot of these cars. Would have to be the Ford GT40 that you saw in the movie Ford versus Ferrari. Just like an incredible machine. And then, there's the Cobra Daytona, Shelby Cobra Daytona, the Shelby GT350R Mustangs, the Ferrari 250 LM, which was 64, which was used, at Le Mans, all kinds of Porsches. But, I have kind of a blue collar favorite. So down at my level, the Ford, the 1972 era Ford Capris that they raced at places like Le Mans. I happen to own one of those and vintage race it because I couldn't touch. I think the 330, the Ferrari 1962 330 Ferrari GTOs, I think those are now $50 to $100 million cars.
Jeez, I'm criming.
Yeah, and we have a fashion magnate here in the Central Ohio area who has Ferraris of that caliber.
Jeez.
And I think we all know who I'm talking about.
Wow.
Yeah. His collection of Ferraris is world class, and nobody gets to see him but him.
I would imagine. Exactly. Yeah. So before I list the top 10, email us or, comment wherever you can when you see this, just your type. So the Rob Report, you nailed it on number 10, the Ford GT40.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Number 9, you've got a couple of Ferraris in here too. They mentioned that too. Number 9, the Mazda Miata.
Interesting.
Yeah,
pick.
yeah.
Okay.
Modernized the lightweight British roadster recipe with reliability and affordability. Most race car globally.
Yeah,
that's true. I mean,
it was a modern take on the Lotus Elan.
Yeah, and you still see him around for sure. Yeah,
it's top seller.
Yeah,
2-seater.
Yeah,
top selling car.
Yeah, and number 8 Acura NSX first generation.
Okay.
Number 7 a Ferrari 250 GTO.
There you go.
Number 6 Jaguar E-Type.
Gorgeous.
Number 5 Lamborghini. I don't know how to pronounce this. Countach. Countach. Okay, thank you. Number 4 Porsche 911 pre-1973.
There you go.
3 the McLaren F1.
Wow.
Top speed of 240 miles an hour.
Yeah, insane.
Ferrari F40 at number 2.
Yeah.
And they're calling them number 1 Mercedes-Benz 300 SL.
Wow. Beautiful car.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I just thought when I saw the list, I'm going, I got to throw this at Norm. This is a great one.
There's no stinkers on that list.
No, not
even the Miata.
Well, you look at the top 40 list. There's you kind of go, ooh, yeah, okay, yeah, that's and they have the pictures with it. It's like, oh God, that's a beautiful car too. Oh my gosh, that's a beautiful car. Sort of thing.
Ridiculous.
It's like, it is. Oh my gosh, yeah, exactly.
And so on the Jaguar, Enzo Ferrari looked at the E-Type when he saw it at the show, like when they debut these cars, that's often at an automotive show, like in Brussels or Paris or London or whatever, New York City. And when Enzo Ferrari saw this Jaguar E-Type, he said, that's the most beautiful car I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's coming from Ferrari.
Yeah. And they got some classics on the list too, like number 20, the Duesenberg SSJ.
Oh,
that's a beautiful car.
There's an American car.
Yeah, exactly. Right, just gorgeous. And then the Bentley 4.5 liter blower. Kind of the chitty bang bang look.
Yeah. So the Bentley guys took that to Le Mans and won a couple of times with that Bentley blower.
And the Bugatti Type 35, which is that
gorgeous.
Yeah, gorgeous. Yeah. I mean, you just look through the list going, you salivate, kind of going, oh yeah, the Bugatti Type 57 SC Atlantic, and just even the styles.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow, they could just make that as a normal car.
So some of those Bugattis, you know how because of fuel economy, today's car companies work on aerodynamics.
Yeah.
Those Bugattis, the coefficient of what did they call it? The coefficient of friction.
Right. There you go.
Right. It was so exceptional. Like when they measure the slipperiness through the air of these old Bugattis, it's equal to or better than what we're doing in the wind tunnels today.
Wow.
So these guys just had a feeling that this would be more aerodynamic, which allows a car to go faster, right? If it's shaped like a brick, it'll get to a certain speed. It can't go any faster, right? Because there's wind resistance. There's air resistance.
Right.
And, Mr. Bugatti, he was so picky about who he would sell cars to. Many of his cars, he would interview the buyer. This would be like Chevrolet. You go in to buy buy an SUV at Chevrolet, and Mr. Chevrolet comes down from Detroit and interviews you to see if you're worthy enough.
I love that.
It's not crazy.
That shows you the craftsmanship was put into building those things. That He's like, I'm not giving it to some local,
right? That's
not going to take care of my baby,
exactly.
Because I want the respect given to it because I gave it that respect.
It's a work of art.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
Well, I'll just real quickly. I'll do an outrage.
Yeah.
So this Jussie Smollett thing, I understand. So I am not disagreeing with the Illinois Supreme Court. Whatever her name was, the prior prosecutor, she made a plea bargain deal with Jussie Smollett that she should not have made. And the police department in Chicago and many people blew up when they heard about this deal that she cut with Jussie Smollett's attorneys. And so then they appointed a special prosecutor, and he got him convicted, right, of hate crime, right? A fake hate crime that he perpetrated against himself to, I don't know what he was thinking, to cause racial discord. I mean, it was just insane what he did. And I remember the black police chief, Eddie Johnson of the city of Chicago, saying he was so angry at this guy because Chicago spent so many resources trying to find these people who he thought he was giving this guy the benefit of the doubt that it was real. And they spent a ton of time, millions of dollars, and concluded that he had staged the whole thing. So anyway, the Illinois Supreme Court said, hey, wait a minute. You know, even though what he did was outrageous, he has rights. And they made a plea bargain deal, and they didn't stick to it. So we're going to wipe out his conviction and restore the plea bargain. And so it's ugly justice, but that it is outrageous. The wonderful thing I have is that I dug a little deeper on this 4B protest thing. That's kind of funny. You know, women who are on the Kamala Harris side of things who cannot accept the election, shaving their heads, divorcing husbands, dropping boyfriends, and saying that they're not going to have sex. So I brought up last week that there is actually a Greek play, and it's by Aristophanes. It's called Lysistrata. So Google that, look up Lysistrata, and it's a comedy, and it's about the Greek women during the Peloponnesian War between Greek states fighting each other. They were so sick of that damn war because it went on for, it went on for like 100, I don't know. It went on for a hell of a long time, like 100 years. And they basically, this playwright, Aristophanes, wrote this play, Lysistrata, about the comical outcomes that the Greek women said no more sex until this war stops. So it's pretty funny, and it does have a precedent.
Trump, listen to that. He just put all the women in Ukraine and Russia, all these countries, and have them do a pledge: no more sex.
No more Ukrainian sex, no more Russian sex until Putin and Zelensky sit down and iron this damn thing out.
It could work. I'm kind of half joking, but
it could. It could work.
It could work. Exactly. I don't really have an outrage for the week because I've been trying to simmer down with Thanksgiving. So thankful for that. But what I am thankful for, though, I think which is great, is that we continue to get more viewers and more listeners as well too.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you. We really, seriously, we do put
whether you agree with us or not.
No, it doesn't. And
matter. Brett and I don't agree on a bunch of stuff. It doesn't matter. It's just intelligent discussion, back and forth. Hopefully intelligent, back and forth. To hash out. Yeah. And actually, I learn a lot of things from Brett. From his background, and he probably
I learn everything too. Hopefully you do too. Hopefully you kind of get a sense for that's a different perspective. Right. If nothing else, we're putting perspectives on the table, right or wrong. We're not trying to solve world, state, local problems. It's just we see stuff and maybe it's a little more complaining than it should be, but we do also do some hurrahs. We do this got fixed. This looks good. This looks good. We do that too. Yeah. But it's certainly a lot easier to find fault than it is good. Yeah. And that's probably something I should do a little bit better in 2025 to find. That's why we do the outrageously wonderful. That these, try to focus on some good stuff that does happen because good things do happen.
So airplanes land safely every day at Ohio airports. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the newspapers and the media, every now and then, could say, hey, you know what? We have pretty good air safety. But they don't do those stories. They do airplane crashes, dog bites man, police shoot somebody. Right. It's never a day. Hey, today the police didn't have to get their gun out of the holster. Like this was a happy day.
Yeah.
So like Brett says, we like to also discuss successes and good things and advances in things. Yeah. So that's important that we keep our heads screwed on straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because not everything is negative.
Well, and you could get lost in the negative, and I think a lot of people have, and in this whole, the election results have scared a lot of people, and I'm an optimist. I hope for the best. We've had changes of regimes all the time for our last 250 years, and thank God it's working. It's working.
There are checks and balances. Things will be okay.
I think so. So, and if not, we have to try to fix them.
That's right.
We try to fix them. But yeah, thank you for following, listening, telling other people about the show as well too. Tell one, and then they tell another. It advances our cause, if you want to say, our show, and it also validates we're doing some good stuff. Because we do put some work into this. We're dedicating some time. So we come in on Friday mornings and record. You see it at any time and hear it at any time that's convenient for you, but we appreciate that. And you can find a whole lot more about us at commonsenseohioshow.com. And we'll talk to you, be a part of it. If you want to be a part of this, let us know too, but we love your comments as often as you can, your feedback. So we create something that you continue to enjoy as well too. So, but head on over to commonsenseohioshow.com. Thanks.